Okay, we live.
Did you change the title?
Yeah, I did. I did.
Does it just have the spoilers warning in it?
Yep,
For
it does. Do you want me to put a big sign on the screen too?
Nah, sir. I think the title is enough.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Some people don't read the titles. Some people think titles are just for show.
Well, maybe those people are wrong and they should feel bad.
They should feel bad.
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
Anywho, how are
Yeah,
you doing? How's your weekend?
it was fine. What did I do this weekend? Um, Yesterday we moved storage units to a bigger unit.
Oh boy,
And
that
when I
must have been
say we, I mean I moved everything.
hauling stuff. Every guy's favorite chore.
Yeah. That was fine. It didn't actually take that long. Um, so that was cool, I guess. And then it was Mother's Day, but my mom lives in a different state, and my wife's mom was busy with church stuff and didn't want to do anything. So we didn't do anything
Mm.
for Mother's Day. But what else happened? I'm sure other stuff happened at some point. Oh, my wife started watching WandaVision and she hates it.
Mm.
Um, yeah, because she wants to see Doctor Strange, which is what we're going to be talking about today. But
Yeah.
I told her she should probably watch WandaVision to get some context and background.
Yeah.
Uh,
Really? Yeah, maybe like I don't know. If there's like one episode you could watch in WandaVision that would make everything make sense. Do you think it'd probably
Maybe.
just be the
I
exact
I
last
think
one or the first before last?
no. I think you need the context of um. I think you need the full context because you lose a lot when you don't understand like the actual. I mean, it's not like trivial. It's like there's a deep seated psychological trauma that's happening,
Mm,
and um, part of it's intentional.
mm,
And like I feel like you need that to kind of understand that in a way,
mm.
like because if you don't have that, then it's like for me the resolution of WandaVision felt like she was confronting her trauma and moving on.
Yeah,
But in
that's what I
Doctor
got from it too.
Strange, she's not.
Yeah,
Like she's overcome.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, well, I guess this is a good way to start off because, like, WandaVision pretty much leads directly into the next Doctor Strange, or I mean, this Doctor Strange movie.
yeah.
Starts off with Strange going to a wedding.
Well, it
Uh,
starts off with
oh yeah,
uh
them getting chased through the
yeah,
America and
in the
the other
Defenders
Doctor.
version of Doctor Strange.
Is that who that
Movies.
is?
Well, his
Yeah.
suit is for Defender's suit, so
Okay. Is that like what? Does he patrol the streets of New York helping people? In that?
there's a team of superheroes called the Defenders, and it had Doctor Strange, the Hulk, Silver Surfer at one point. Like it's a pretty cool team.
Mm,
So yeah, well, I mean, and obviously the Defenders that Marvel did with Netflix, which is another
yeah.
form of the Defenders with Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Daredevil, and Jessica Jones, but
Yep. That
different
was a
team.
good one. I
Yeah,
missed that. We should have had a season two by now. Oh well.
yeah,
Cry every time. Anyway, moving on from that though. So they get chased through this universe by this weird glowy red monster thing,
yeah.
which I kind of thought was supposed to be like the demon or whatever that's chasing America, but I guess it's just one of the many conjured things. But I guess we'll get to that bridge when we cross it, or at least we'll talk about that bridge when we get to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they getting through like there's a bunch of exciting music happening, a bunch of special effects. The scenes look great. Like I know I complain a lot about Spider-Man uh, having just too much VFX work just to make this just kind of overwhelm me. But in here, it just I don't know, it's just better, or they did something different where it's just not as intense and like wearing in the eyes, or maybe it's just this is where all the special effects budget went, and it was lackluster in Spider-Man for all I know. Uh,
Well, I think it has maybe something to do with the nature of it, where
mm,
like Doctor Strange, you expect to see a bunch of trippy, crazy things, Whereas
Yeah.
Spider-Man, you expect to see street fighting, kind of gritty hero stuff, and for large portions of Spider-Man in the MCU, at least,
Mm.
um, it's a lot of CGI,
Yeah. A
which
lot.
can be very off-putting to people, understandably. I don't mind it. I think it's fine, but I can understand why other people might mind it.
Yeah. So they're getting chased through this like just great looking like realm where this magical book or whatever they need to get to is being kept.
Yeah, the Book of Ashanti.
The Ashanti book, whatever. The bridge gets cut off in front of them, like they thought they had it and they couldn't make it all the way. And then Doctor Strange's like, "Well, I gotta drain your power, America." And she's like, "Oh, you betrayed me." He's like, "That's right, I did, even though I don't want to, and it makes me feel bad, but oh well. So fuck you."
YOLO or something.
And then he completely forgets that the demon exists while this is going on. Uh, so then the demon, like, just stabs the shit out of him. He died. This version of this Doctor Strange we just met dies. America panics and opens up a portal to another dimension, and she slips through. Um, and then it cuts to our Strange, or at least the Strange that, like, we saw a movie about and has been participating in our MCU.
Yeah.
Uh, he's going to a wedding for, I forget the name of that character.
Christine.
Christine. He's going to Christine's wedding. So it's pretty awkward because we knew that they were love interests for a long time. Unfortunately, though, like, it just didn't work out because he's a fucking Avenger. He flies through portals. He disappears for 5. He poofed for 5 years. Just a whole bunch of stuff happened. So it's pretty intense, emotional, but it's not something like it looks like something that's like breaking him as a character. At least not yet.
No, I mean,
Uh,
and the whole point of that scene is to introduce one of the themes of the movie,
mhm.
well, I guess a couple, because it brings up both the fact that Stephen Strange feels the need to always be the person who is making the decisions and doing the things, right? Like she says,
Mm.
you it always had to be you with the scalpel in your hand, right? Like not only like because it's a big point about like he's the one who decided to let everyone be wiped away for 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so it's like, of course he made that decision because he has to have this control in his life, right? That's the whole
Yeah.
point she's making. That's one of the themes. And the other theme is she asks him, "Are you happy?"
Yep.
Right? Which is something that we kind of get asked quite frequently in life, but nobody's so retrospective about it. It's like, yeah, of course, whatever. But like the idea of happiness, the idea of being like it's much more complex than what people think of, I think. And everyone has kind of a different idea of what that means for their own life.
Yeah.
Same with like success and things like that. And um, for me, it's kind of an odd question that's flawed immediately because happiness is not something that is permanent ever.
Yeah.
Happiness is an emotion. It's like anger. It's like whatever. Like you can't always be happy. You can't always be angry. You can't always be sad. It comes and it goes. And I think the goal, if you want to live a happy life, you have to accept that happiness is not forever. You have to learn to be content with yourself and your life and things like that. So it's an interesting question.
Yeah.
And it is one of the themes of the film
Yeah.
because it comes around 3 or 4 more times.
Yeah. And all the other things that he's encountered, they ask him that specific question, and he talks about it specifically with another thing that happens a lot later. But
Right.
anyway, so they're at this wedding, drinks are going on, they're getting married, everyone's having a good time. Then the very, very classic superhero shit happens, like, oh, people are running and screaming and there's something going on over here. So he's like, oh, excuse me, he does the superhero costume up and he flies away. And then like, there's an invisible monster and he casts a spell to reveal this like, kind of beholder looking demon from another dimension.
Yeah.
Great looking CGI.
So that character looks like the comic book character Shumagrath,
Hmm.
uh, but only in the way it looks. I mean,
Yeah, I'm
so
assuming Shimagarath didn't get one shot like this one
well,
did.
Shumagrath was like in comics was like this like ancient being of like great magical power who was like a big rival to some of the early like wizards, like maybe even the ancient one. I don't remember the story exactly, but essentially, one of the wizards, maybe the ancient one, maybe not, locked it away in another dimension for and imprisoned it forever until eventually it got set free, and then Doctor Strange fights it and blah blah blah. But yeah, essentially, different character almost entirely because this is just a random other dimensional being that
Mm,
could have been Shumagarath, but for the purposes of Doctor Strange, it was just
yeah.
sent by a magical person to capture America Chavez.
Yeah, man, this CGI is fantastic. All the tentacles are acting independent of each other. The eye has great it's not like as crazy detail like as in the Starro in the Suicide Squad, which was actually like the detail in that eye was insane.
Mm-hmm.
But on this one, it still looks pretty good. And so, Doctor Strange starts fighting. He's like, oh, he sees America being chased by this thing. It's just like, what is going on? She's like, fuck you, and then she runs away, and then Doctor Strange continues to fight the monster. Wong, our boy, shows up because he's a sorcerer supreme. He's supposed to be in tune with all magical disturbances across the planet face of the earth because that's like his job. So that's why, I saw some people on the internet saying, "Oh, Wong just fucking shows up for no reason." I was like, no, if magical monster starts rampaging New York, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure the sorcerer supreme is going to show up.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
think I think people have an issue, right? And I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how like if we'll talk about this again, but a lot of people have an issue with the fact that like it's a Doctor Strange movie, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not really about Doctor Strange in almost any meaningful way.
It's kind of like how the Captain America, the Winter Soldier, wasn't really about Captain America. Or there wasn't
I
there was
mean,
another movie we had this issue. Like it was
well,
just
you're talking
basically an
about like
Avengers
maybe
movie.
like Civil War.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, like here's the thing, like here's where I come down on it because I've seen people say, oh, like it's a Doctor Strange movie, but Wong's a Sorcerer Supreme, and it's more about
Mm,
America Chavez, and it's more about Wanda. Like
mm,
she has more meaningful story beats than Strange does. And here's what I'll say: you don't have to like this. And you don't have
mm,
to like it's okay if you don't like the movie, it's okay if you don't like the point I'm gonna make, like you don't have to agree with it, but I think that is the point of the movie. It's a Doctor Strange movie, and again, going back to the theme, he always has to be in control. Well, this movie is about him losing that control and being okay with it.
yeah.
And I think that's how it. And maybe that'll make you say, "Wow, I actually didn't think about that." That makes me like it more because it works really thematically with, the whole point of the movie, really. But you could also say, "I think that's stupid. It's a Doctor Strange movie, and I wanted to
Mm,
cool more Doctor Strange stuff." Fair enough.
yeah. Yeah. So eventually him and Wong team up, they fight the monster. This is the first I think scene we get where I'm like, "Well, wow, that was actually like really violent." Like it was like funny and like enjoyable in the time, but with how it
Yeah.
happens is Wong like throws like a pole into the eye of the creature and then they pull it out and pulls out the whole fucking eyeball. And
Right.
there's like and I know that's the first time I noticed like, oh, there's like gore and stuff, like there's blood spattering everywhere. Like, oh man, like that's like a foreshadowing basically like things to
Right.
come later in this fucking movie.
That also
Um,
sparked some debate online overall, not just the scene, but overall, like
I
people.
I honestly and sorry, this is just a random point, not to interrupt you, but I
Yeah,
really do think that this movie should have been rated R.
yeah.
Like if it
That's
wasn't
what the
rated R,
debate was about. Like people
yeah,
were saying, like, like I didn't read the debate. I've just seen like headlines, like, oh, people are talking about it should have been R or PG-13, and I don't know if they're saying like the movie was already gory enough to be like considered an R-rated movie, or if they
yeah,
think they should have lent into it more to make it like rated R. But
yeah.
yeah, like
No, I think there was already enough to make it a rated R movie. Like, it just
arguably there probably was. I don't know what the rules are now around blood, but there's a lot of fucking blood.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, well, we're getting ahead of ourselves because
Yeah, yeah,
that's part of that pretty much focuses on one specific crazy scene that we'll definitely talk a lot about probably when we get to it because there's a
yeah.
lot to unwrap there. So Wong and Captain Doctor Strange I was called Captain Strange. Doctor Wong and Doctor Strange, they get America. They're like, okay, let's go back to the temple. I forget the name of it because I'm horrible with names and places. Do you remember the name of it? Normally you would jump in at this time.
Carmitage.
Carmitage. There you go. All right. So they go to Carmitage. They talk for a bit. they find out America has this ability where she can like punch star-shaped holes like through the universe or whatever,
And travel through the multiverse. Yeah.
and travel through the multiverse physically, which is like I guess a really super big deal.
Yeah, because it's also brought up later that like there's no variant or there's no other version of her.
No, yeah,
She's the only one in every universe because she can travel through universes, right?
yeah, exactly. So back just real quick to the first monster when they were fighting, they're like, "Oh, look at this thing long. It's got like these weird." They noticed like the weird runes on it and stuff like that when they were fighting it along the tentacles and stuff like that. They started talking about that while they're in the temple, and then they just like figure out, "Oh, this is witch magic." Doctor Strange knows witch, so he goes to visit Wanda Maximoff, played by Kate Olsen. It's Kate Olsen, right? No, it's
Elizabeth
not.
Olsen.
Elizabeth Olsen. Jesus Christ, I'm the worst. Put me away and throw away the key. Don't let me record a podcast again. So Elizabeth Olsen, we get a scene with her. She's like tending this orchard, clipping stuff. They're having a good time. They're talking. Doctor Strange is like, well, I got this problem, and then they, like start walking down through the orchard, and she's like, oh, is your problem like, and they're talking and talking and talking, and then eventually, like, the problem is America, but he doesn't mention America. And then eventually Wanda just asks like, hey, or she just says like, oh, and where is America exactly? And then Doctor Strange is like, well, I never mentioned America's name, and then Wilson's like, oh fuck, well. She drops the guys. I guess she got this magical thing called the Darkhold. I don't remember if it was brought up that much in other media before. I can't 100% remember. Was it? If it was brought up in like any of the previous MCU, the Darkhold.
Which one? Oh, the Darkhold. Yeah. It was in WandaVision.
Okay, so yeah, this is WandaVision. She gets this magical evil book that lets her do evil stuff, and the more she uses it, the more evil it makes her. We can already see this with her fingertips, like they're pitch black, kind of almost like a la Dumbledore touching the Horcrux. It's probably the best example I can make.
Yeah, you don't ever, like from my recollection, see it spread, but it looks as if it would be something that would spread,
over
like an infection,
Yeah, and it's just cool. It's really cool looking. Elizabeth Olsen also, for the overall movie, fantastic acting the entire time. Shifted between horror, drama, and mommy issues. It was like nothing, just quick gear changes, no issues whatsoever. So that was pretty intense. So basically, they have this debate about who's right and who's wrong. But since she's kind of sitting in this ultra death orchard with like red lightning and the souls of the dead wailing in torment while evil magical book saps their life from the earth. I think we can figure from that who is right and who is wrong. So then she says, "Hey, I'm gonna come for America no matter what." And Doctor Strange says, "Well, fuck you," and then he teleports away. We didn't say, "Well, fuck you," but you get the idea.
Yeah.
They go to the temple. They fortify the defenses. Wong screams a bunch of things, which I think was really funny. A lot of people, I guess, are quoting that, which is good. I'm glad I'm not the only one that thought it was entertaining. She shows up in a giant storm cloud of fire, red, evil lightning, which again, she starts blowing stuff up. He flies up. They have a debate for quick seconds, but eventually just blows down to, okay, I'm gonna fight you, and you're gonna fight me, and fuck you.
Well,
is there anything you want to comment on? Sorry, I'm going too fast. But pretty much
I think I think some of the major points are, I think people focused on the acting and said Wanda was just crazy good acting, and when she was saying this is me being reasonable, I blew a hole in my husband's head and it didn't do anything. Well, not her husband, but
well, it was her husband, according to her.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was good. I mean, I think just they did a very good job of showing the power level of Wanda, which we didn't necessarily need, but
and it was scaling up throughout the movie too. That's the thing. She was learning, and learning. But please finish your thought. Sorry.
For people who didn't see WandaVision, it serves as a great example of her power, and for people who did, it serves as a great reminder. She was able to penetrate the shield just by projecting herself
into some dude's mind. And whispering, walking up, whispering around, fucking Wong going up, dude, being like, "Fortify him."
Yeah.
Fortify your minds.
And
Like, this is
then
nice.
Doctor Strange thinks he's very clever and traps her in the mirror dimension, and she like fucking straight up learns she can travel through the reflections of in water and
In
kill
the
people.
mirror. Yeah, in the mirror dimension, which is supposed to be like the wizard's prison, basically. Like they throw things in there they don't want to deal with because there's not supposed to be no way to escape, and she figures it out in like what, 5 minutes?
In like two
Um,
minutes. Yeah, like
yeah.
it's crazy.
And then we get this really crazy scene where she like crawls through a gong and she's all fucked up and like she fixes her own body, very much like horror the grudge style.
Yeah.
And then America launches them to a new dimension.
Right. And so I think this is something Marvel's always done well, and
Mm-hmm.
it's altering characters in specific ways to suit your story,
Mm-hmm.
but also being true to who they are at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
America Chavez is an interesting one. She's not been in comics for a long time. I mean, like a decade, which in terms of comics is not very long. Um, and it wasn't the same. Like in comics, like she had pretty good control of her powers, but it's a big deal that she doesn't in this movie. Like if you give her control of her powers, the whole movie just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's pretty much yeah.
um, yeah, and they also gave her trauma with her mom's.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in so like in comics, she exists in a world. The reason why there's no variant of her in comics is because she exists in a world outside of time and space. And there was like something that happened that like threatened their world, and her moms sacrificed their lives to save it. And then she, because she's grief stricken, she starts just traveling through dimensions, like, you know, on like because she wants to, not because she has to or whatever, you know. So it's a little different, but they use that like her power essentially is the same, but she has control of it, and her moms gave up their lives to save their dimension, pretty much. So.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the differences, but they're good differences, right? Like they serve the story, and again, I would say 95% of people who are going to go see Doctor Strange haven't read any America Chavez at all, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they have, there's not enough to actually care about those differences, right? Like, I've never met anybody who's like, America Chavez is my favorite and I love her so much. I'm sure there's people that exist like that, just like I'm sure there's not many people who say, I love Black Bolt, he's my favorite, except for me. Like, I exist, so.
Sucks for you to see this movie then.
Yeah, you see this?
Oh wow. Well, I'm sorry that happened to you. Sorry you
See,
had to go.
this was me. This was me after the movie.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Anyway, um, so they arrive in this cool looking version of New York City that's like all futuristic and stuff like that. There's like all the buildings have green growing on them. Obviously, it's some kind of like idealistic future sci-fi style of New York.
Well, didn't
They start.
they travel through like a bunch of random
Yeah,
universes
yeah,
first?
they did, and there
There's
I
like one
noticed.
where like they're like paint
Yes,
and
they true, and but that's more like that was like kind of like an effect, seeing
yeah,
like.
but it's still
And
cool, you know. It's like
yeah, it is. And I heard there was a bunch of cameos for people that read the comics. Like, I guess, like, they fly past this council real quick, like some big gas dimension. I don't know. Like, I was reading on comments on Reddit. Like, they're like, oh, look, like, you see, like, these five guys, like, look up at them, and that's the council of this, from that, and this, and that. And they pass through this dimension. You can see this in the background and stuff
yeah.
like that. So, that was a cool little cameo. I don't think it really had application for the stories, though. I think it was just them, again, flexing their effects department because the whole sequence was fucking
Well,
phenomenal.
that's what the entire first Doctor Strange movie was flexing
Yeah.
the.
Yeah.
But there
Exactly.
are, I think in this movie a little less than the first one, but there's still like you can
Yeah.
tell
Well,
obvious like
the first episode, sorry, just to finish that thought, because I watched it twice. Like, I watched it again in preparation for this movie, and I was like, damn, I really fucking love that movie. And again, I believe I've said this before, but the first Doctor Strange is probably my favorite Marvel movie, and I still think I stand by that just because it's so much fun. Like the kaleidoscope effects of everything, like the buildings turning and twisting, and like gravity being warped, and like your perspective just being jank. Like they're fucking with your perspective, and it feels great. Like it's different, it's new, it's unique camera angle. It's working with the video editing and the camera in sync. It's great.
This one, not so much, but in the first Doctor Strange, like they really paid a lot of homage to Jack Kirby and his art,
Mm.
and
Yeah, I don't
so
know who that is, but I'm assuming it's a famous comic book artist, and like I'm fantastic. I'm sure he's good for the trippy shit.
Jack Kirby and Stanley together like pretty much created Marvel as we know it. Like,
There you go.
and Jack Kirby drew everything.
You drew like trippy. Did you draw like trippy shit like that?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So are you gonna pull up an example? Right, good.
yeah.
Just trippy. The trippiest thing he ever drew.
No, not the trippiest thing he ever. I mean, he did draw some trippy things, but like, I can show you. Okay, that's a random picture. Display capture. Should I do that? Yeah, that's fine. So,
Oh wow, that is actually really cool.
yeah, like this is like his like art style, like for Doctor Strange especially, like. So they really like try to pay on, like this is one of the most trippy ones.
Yeah.
Like they really do try to pay homage to a lot of Jack Kirby's stuff.
And in the first Doctor Strange movie, again, like just those kaleidoscope effects, and they all look so snappy. It all looks so real. You could see dust flying out from the bricks as they were rearranged and everything like that.
Yeah.
It was just so cool. And God, the acting power. Scala's Grant or whatever the blonde guy is, who is the main the villain. Fantastic actor. He wasn't the villain, but he was trying to unleash Dormammu. You know, like the acolyte.
Oh, Mad Mikkelsen's character.
Yes. Yeah.
Mackay?
Something like that.
I forgot what his name is. Malik. I don't remember.
Well, maybe we could do another episode revisiting the first Doctor Strange, because right now we're talking about Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. Anyway, they get to this new dimension after going through, like, this trippy 45-second, like, where they fly through a bunch of, like, 50 different dimensions. Kaecilius. There you go. They arrive, and they start wandering around. Turns out in this dimension, you walk on bread instead of green, which is supposed to be like, this thing where, oh, Doctor Strange doesn't know what's going on. Ha ha ha, look at him, he's such a fool. And then America buys like pizza balls, which is something we have in our universe, so I don't understand like why it's such a fucking trip, but whatever.
Yeah, we have even better things. We have pizza rolls, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
We don't have to get messy hands.
Called a fucking calzone. Okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
So like, it's like, oh, everything. I thought like this is really stupid. It's like, oh, everything's free in this universe, but in your universe, people pay with money. Isn't that stupid? And then it turns out in these universes, you pay with money. So they run away, and there was a reference. There was a funny. I guess that guy was Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell. I don't.
He's been in like every Sam Raimi movie. Like he was in the first Spider-Man when Spider-Man's like doing the wrestling, and he's the announcer, and he said, "What's your name? I'm the Human Spider." That's a fucking stupid name.
I'm gonna call you the Spider-Man. Yeah. Okay. Good. So they move past. They have this really convenient thing where they step. Like if you step here, it reveals your innermost memory to have to hurry along the plot and have character development.
And somehow both are dumb enough to stop there when they have no time to get their memory. Yeah.
Exactly. So they have this probably one of the weaker scenes, like where they explore, like, oh, like each of them is traumatized. Doctor Strange feels bad that he's still alone and he really isn't happy. America is also like disturbed by her own powers. And,
at least the Doctor Strange one was a callback like to What If, like when he kept reliving the same day and like he kept going to that restaurant with her. Like it seemed very similar. And America's was like, oh yes, I'm traumatized because I killed my moms. And it's like,
you didn't kill them; they're still out there. Listen to Doctor Strange, man. Come on, hold out hope.
No. They gave up their atoms to stabilize their reality, but
well,
not in this movie.
Okay. Anyway, so they move past that. Like we learned that America basically like she'd sent her parents to some dimension and then she got flung to another dimension because she got startled because a bee landed on her arm or something like that. Which I think was hella funny. Like she just screamed and like a portal opened up and sucked her parents away to another dimension. Fucking hilarious. So that happened. Then they go to the Sanctum in New York, and it's being walked over by what's that guy's name? My buddy
Well,
Cage.
so he's not a Baron in this, but in comics he's Baron Mordo. In this he's
Baron
Carl Mordo.
Mordo, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a giant statue of comic book
Doctor
accurate
Strange.
Doctor Strange.
Same who sacrificed himself to Thanos.
Yeah, he killed Thanos, and he died killing Thanos, and that's what the plaque says. And yeah.
So they invite him in. Doctor Strange in America. Mordo invites him in. They have tea. Turns out the tea's spiked. Oh, what a fucking guess. Who would have seen that coming from a million miles away? And then they pass out. Does anything? And then we switch over to Wanda, who's using like the Darkhold, and she's like, oh, and then one of the sorcerers survived Wanda's assault. She gets her knife. She goes while Wanda's like, traveling. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm skipping over something really important. Yeah. So they use this thing called dream walking, right, or whatever it is, dream casting.
Dream walking.
Okay, so dream walking, it's basically Wanda can connect with her other selves and like basically use them like as flesh puppets, in other in other universes. So Wanda casts a spell to take control. I think she's testing out the first time. That's why the sequence was so different. But while she's doing that, another sorcerer shows up. It survived. Wong's like, "What happened? Like, I'm alive, bitch." Takes out his dagger, and I'm gonna fucking fuck this bitch up.
Well,
and instead of stabbing Wanda in the fucking neck, she goes and stabs the book or something, I guess.
Yeah, the dream walking scene is another one that people who love Sam Raimi will love because
it's horror. It's basically horror. It's not like horror.
It's very trippy. Like P's are spelling things, and like the world is like turning, and there's a lot of shots like that in this movie where like the camera is just like spinning.
It's shot like it basically has the cinematography of a horror movie a lot of the time, which is fantastic.
Just like the early Spider-Man movies, because you can tell Sam Raimi made all those movies, and like ultimately people who love horror movies and horror themes, and like they're gonna love this movie. Yeah, and people who don't maybe won't like it as much.
Yeah, because there are a few jump scares, but anyway, so the sorcerer destroys the Darkhold. Darkhold explodes, taking the sorcerer with it. Wanda's very upset. She basically tortures people until Wong admits that the Darkhold was a copy of these like texts from these like demon walls or whatever. So Wong takes her there.
It's like the Bible, right? Like the Bible was written from like translations from carvings in stone and like,
scrolls and stuff like that.
And essentially the Darkhold is just like the power comes from the carvings and walls.
Yeah. So they travel to this evil temple, and there's a carving of Wanda on the wall. And another thing is she starts calling herself the Scarlet, referring to herself as the Scarlet Witch. We learned earlier from Wong that like, the Scarlet Witch is foretold to take over all the universes, blah blah blah, or destroy them all, whatever. So we go to this thing. She sees herself carved into the wall. She's like, "Oh, it's a throne for me." She gets the spell she needs, and then she starts channeling again. And then I think that's when we switch back to Doctor Strange, right, in America in the glass boxes.
Yeah, but that reminds me, because I've also seen people online talking about when you talk about the Scarlet Witch and the Legend of the Scarlet Witch and like the foretold whatever, like you see people talking online about House of M, and House of M is like one of Wanda's most popular comics, I think, probably because essentially what it is Magneto is her dad, obviously, right?
Yeah.
And she wants to make him happy, so she creates a reality in comics where like his dreams and his wishes are reality. So she essentially creates an entirely new reality where Magneto is a ruler, right? Like, and mutants are the rulers because that's what his vision was. People are like, "Oh, hopefully we get a House of M," and other people are like, "We don't need a House of M," and I'm just like, "Yo, we got that already. It was WandaVision."
Yeah, it's just like, for her.
We got that. Yeah. Like we don't need every story to be Wanda taking over everybody. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, and her power levels just keep scaling up and scaling up and scaling up. So it switches back now to Doctor Strange in America. They were captured and they're in these glass boxes. We meet Doctor Strange's love interest, whose name is Rachel?
Christine.
Christine?
Rachel
Christine.
McAdams is the actress.
Okay, Christine. I don't know what's going on anymore. I don't even know what
Yeah,
planet I'm on. I didn't get out of bed this morning.
and this is apparently Earth 838.
Yes.
And we have our first ever confirmation that
Yeah.
the
616.
mainstream stories that we've been watching with
Yep.
Guardians and the Avengers and Spider-Man, that's Earth 616.
And that is something actually you said you disagree with and should have been named its own universe, correct?
Because our mainline comic stories are
Mm-hmm.
616, and then you have like 1080 with like Ultimate Universe. Like, I feel like you had an opportunity there to say that the MCU was something different.
Mm-hmm.
Like that also could run parallel to comics. But if they want to make a 616, which is just them telling fans this is the mainstream, mainline, baseline reality, our reality, right? And then we'll do things with other realities, right? Because that's how fans will identify with it more than like if they gave it a random number, fans would be like, oh, okay, what is this random number, right? Like
It's the MCU verse.
right. So like it's interesting, and it's like our first like real confirmation of what universe or what timeline
Yep.
what we've been watching exists in.
Yeah, they're slowly opening up like basically the curtains to the wider universe is I think is another theme in this movie that's going on in the background.
Yeah. And
So I
again,
think they
you don't need to watch Loki to enjoy this movie, but I think you will benefit more from understanding like the thing with Loki, right? Like a lot of people agree it didn't end well.
mm,
And the reason I think it didn't end well is because people who don't read comics are going to be very confused by what happened.
mm,
And I think that's a bad thing to do when you're making TV shows and movie adaptations. You can't rely on other works to inform people. You have to inform them through your work.
yeah.
And so when He Who Remains was killed, essentially what happened is like because people might say, "Oh, well, why are we only learning about the multiverse now?" Well, when He Who Remains was killed, it allowed multiverses to spread.
Yeah.
And when you allow other realities to spread, this is what
There.
happens, right?
Yeah.
And so we see that at the end of Loki, the branching realities, because what the TVA did in Loki was prevent those realities from spreading.
Yeah.
They wanted to protect the sacred timeline, which is like 616, right?
Yep.
So if you watch Loki, you connect it back to that, you'll benefit a lot from watching Doctor Strange and informing some of the things that are happening. And if you didn't, you're not really missing much. Like you don't need that. But if your question is, well, why haven't we seen multiverses before? Why is this only happening now? Why is everything so multiversal at this point? I think it stems from that. So
Yeah. So confirmed 616. They talk for a little bit. They do some catching up. They establish a little bit of a bond. This Doctor Strange and Jennifer Rachel. What's her name? Something. Christine. Yes. God, her name is so basic. It's so easy to forget. Does she get like a hero name later on or something like that? Like what?
No, she doesn't need one.
Okay. Well, there. So yeah.
This
And then we
isn't like a Scarlet Scarab moment, like
okay.
Layla was Scarlet Scarab in Moon Knight.
Okay, so then we get a confirmation, and then they show up and it's like, "Oh, the Illuminati will see you now," and he's like, "The Illuminati," because there needs to be like a little joke every 5 minutes to make things lighthearted. And then he's led away to the Illuminati, and
okay, the Illuminati is not a joke, though.
yeah.
It's a real thing in
Yes,
comics.
it is a real. It is a real thing in comics, and a lot of people were happy to see it. Was there anything that happened between this and the Illuminati? I think
there was a cutaway back, but I don't remember. It was she started dreamwalking again.
Yeah, and repossessed the other Wanda.
Yeah,
and repossessed the other Wanda and flew off into the sky.
Yeah, and the second time she repossessed that Wanda was way quicker than the first time.
Yeah, because again, her power scaling up. So, and then we get introduced to the Illuminati, which is we have John Krasinski, which is something a lot of people are really super excited about as Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, John Krasinski is Mr. Fantastic.
I forget it. Reed Richards, right? Is his full name?
Reed Richards.
Yeah. And then we get
Monica Rambeau as Spectrum.
Yep, who's Captain Marvel, right? And that's basically
pretty much,
like
yeah. And
Captain Carter.
yeah, Captain Carter. Yep.
Black Bolt,
Black Bolt,
and then
played by the same actor,
yep,
Anson Mount, who was Black Bolt in the
Inhumans.
bad TV show.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So he got his redemption.
Yeah,
And
Baron
then
Mordo or Carl Mordo is the Sorcerer Supreme and
yeah,
took the place of Doctor Strange in the
and
Illuminati.
and then it took a few 20 seconds, but eventually Professor X shows up. Patrick Stewart reprising the role here again for the same purpose as the other two movies.
Yep, with the animated X-Men wheelchair.
And I also have been told that some people say that the theme for the original for that X-Men is playing in the background when he rolls in.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah, and the chair looked great. I thought it was gonna look really stupid, but I actually thought it looked like it fitted the the weird futuristic setting going on in this universe, at least to me. So I wasn't that jolted by it.
The other interesting feature that we have here is the Ultron bots.
Yes. Yeah.
And if anybody missed it, the idea here is that Reed Richards is so much smarter than Tony Stark that if he would have created Ultron, it would have worked. It worked. Right?
Yeah.
And maybe people miss that, but yeah, that's the point. People don't understand this because Tony Stark is incredibly he's a genius, right? And Bruce Banner is a genius, but Reed Richards is omega super god pharaoh genius.
Yeah.
So.
And so they start talking. It turns out that they lied at the plaque where they say our Doctor Strange gave his life fighting Thanos was a lie. It turns out that he was kind of crazy and he basically caused the destruction of another universe. Because he was trying to.
Yeah, he got the Darkhold and went a little loopy, and he did help them get the Book of Ashanti, which allowed them to kill Thanos before Thanos could do the snappy. But as a result, he had to die.
Yeah, they were fighting, and I guess he was really weakened after the battle. And Professor Charles Xavier, he uses his mental mind magic stuff to show us that scene basically. And Black Bolt just one shots Doctor Strange. He goes I'm sorry, and that was actually I thought that was cool.
That's the thing. When I was reading comics growing up and I was reading Black Bolt's story, you just get crazy good moments like that. And it happens even in more recent comics where you just he has to kill someone even though he doesn't want to, and he just he just whispers and then they explode.
Yep.
and that's one of my favorite things, and one of my favorite fun facts to tell people about Black Bolt is when he was 5 years old, he whispered and a mountain leveled to the ground. That's just how strong his voice is. Yeah.
So they're talking, and he's saying, well, I'm not like the other Doctor Strange, I wouldn't do that. And then and this is also when they inform us of the idea of, I forget what it's called, when the two universes collide.
An incursion.
An incursion can occur when one or both universes are destroyed because too much of one universe is bleeding over into another.
So this happened. This comes straight from comics, and it comes from Secret Wars, and even the New Avengers series, Jonathan Hickman's run before that. The Illuminati, essentially, their job is to prevent incursions at some point. And so they, you even have a scene where you see another planet about to collide with Earth, and Captain America has the Infinity Gauntlet, and he has to stop it. Yeah. So things like that happen. And we'll get back to this maybe after the recap and stuff, but that plays a part, I think, in where things are headed. And a lot of people are, after phase 4, are really questioning what the direction is right now. So we'll get back to that.
Yeah. So they talk about incursion. They explain it a little bit. Basically, what happens is one universe blows up, and trillions and gajillions and quintillions of people die, and you're supposed to feel real bad about it. And yeah, that's what happens. And then Wanda shows up. I believe did they discuss anything else at the council that I'm skipping over?
They're gonna vote. Important? They're gonna vote on.
Not to blow them up. Yeah, have Black Bolt one shot him again
because pretty much they think all Doctor Strangers are the same, which is another theme throughout the movie. Is like, there's not much different between Doctor Strangers and different universes, and that becomes a significant thing. But also Professor X is like, I believe in you. We'll have the vote, but just in case there's like this cool door or whatever you can go to.
Yeah. No, so what happens is Wanda shows up, starts blowing the place up. The Ultron bots are going like, "Oh, danger, danger, warning, warning," and then start all running and shooting lasers and shit. The council breaks up because we're gonna go, because they all think like they're all basically. I knew they were all gonna die when as soon as they're like, "Oh, fuck the Scarlet Witch, we don't give a shit about her. We care more about you." Like we can.
Oh yeah, we can handle that little witch or whatever they said.
Yeah, no, it was Reed Richards, which is apparently, as I read for some comics, very in character for Reed Richards.
Reed Richards is incredibly egotistical,
arrogant,
and there's an alternate reality version of him. What's he called? The Maker, dude. He's an evil version of Reed Richards. It's crazy.
So Wanda shows up, blowing up all the Ultron bots. The Illuminati confronts her, and it does not go well from them. To say that is an understatement. Not to get too extreme to skip it all, but basically they just all fucking get one shot basically by Wanda, aside from the character who is this universe's version of Miss Marvel, who I'm told Spectrum is incredibly powerful, including in the comic runs.
Yep.
Star shattering, probably I don't know. I don't know. I don't read the comics, but apparently she's very, very, very strong.
Yeah, she's good.
So she's the only one. So basically what happens is they should show up, all the Illuminati confront her. Reed Richards is trying to talk her down, and then eventually she's like, okay, well, fine, fuck you. Our Black Bolt can one shot, basically just wipe you off the face of the earth with but talk to your voice. And Black Bolt does this thing where he crosses his arms, a very intimidating pose. And then Wanda Maximoff just go, with one word from his mouth, he can fucking blow you up, bitch. So you better fucking stand down, you fucking piece of shit, bitch. Fucking bitch.
And this tuning fork lights up.
Yeah, and then Wanda goes, what mouth? And then Black Bolt doesn't have a mouth anymore because she can rewrite the rules for reality. And then Black Bolt screams out because he doesn't have a fucking mouth. And can we talk about the effects real quick? He's putting his hand over where his mouth used to be, and you can hear the noises. And you can hear his mouth moving around just beneath that patch of skin. Black Bolt gets a little upset about this, and I think he tries to I don't know, go what the fuck. Or something.
I think he just makes a noise with his throat. He's like,
Yeah, and then he blows his fucking brain out. We're talking okay, so what happens is basically he says the word, and then it goes through his throat and then into the back of the skull, and all of the
he just John F. Kennedy's his own brain.
One side of his skull deflates and the other puffs up like a balloon, and then it explodes in a giant squall of blood, and he falls over. Yeah. And then he's dead.
And his brain is everywhere.
Yeah, and it was really intense in the entire theater. And we didn't have a lot of people in our theater, but the entire theater was whoa, what? It's whoa. And then Reed Richards goes what the fuck? And I don't know, he takes a fighting pose or something.
Yeah, and he turns into Funfetti.
But another thing, you hear the sound of his brain pop when it gets to the head, which I thought was another really super intense gory effect.
Yeah.
So yeah, he basically, she casts a spell and he starts turning into 1,000 different strands of little tiny blue specks. And then
pickup sticks,
Yeah, and then it gets to his head and then he pops. There's this loud popping noise, and that's it. There goes Reed Richards. Next on the
on the chopping block.
Next on the shit list is Captain Carter, who puts up a little bit of a fight.
Yeah, I thought Black Bolt's death, when he died, I was that's the most brutal death we'll see until the shield cuts her in half.
She's literally, it doesn't show anything on screen because I'm pretty sure that's how they dodged the. I'm pretty sure
we see a shield covered in dripping blood.
And she looks behind her and then she falls over, and so she got cut in half, Darth Maul style, cut in half by her own shield. And it's really fucking brutal.
I'm pretty sure her spleen was still on the shield.
Yeah, there was people were saying that you could see gore on the shield and the organs and stuff like that, and it was fucking brutal. And so Captain Carter falls over and she's done. And then finally on the final list is Spectrum, and she runs around doing some laser shoot stuff, and Wanda's not she's kind of oh man, this chick's actually kind of powerful, and then she puts a little bit of effort and
Yeah,
She
just
drops
crushes her. Yeah.
she drops her own statue on her, I believe, actually.
Yeah.
And no more Illuminati.
Yeah, and it's worth noting before the movie came out, we talked about it, and I said,
Mm,
I don't know who will be in the Illuminati, but it probably won't be Black Bolt and
mm.
Mr. Fantastic. I was wrong, but
Yeah.
to be fair, I don't think anybody saw that coming.
Yeah, and I
Um,
don't think anyone saw the Slaughterfest coming for them either.
and
I
no
don't
one
know.
is more happy than me to see those characters, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like, I'm a huge fan of Fantastic Four in general. Like, if, Spider-Man obviously is huge, but like if you're looking at Silver Age comics, like Fantastic Four is like number one for me. uh,
Yeah.
so I love it, and we get Silver Surfer, and we get Black Panther, and all these great characters out of those runs, and the
Hmm.
Inhumans as well. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And I hope we can get a run of Fantastic Four in the MCU soon. That doesn't suck, like an official one that isn't made by Sony and makes me want to fucking go jump off a bridge.
Yeah,
Um.
well, we will, but
Anyway, so no more Illuminati. Basically, they all get one shot. So, what do you think about that? Like, I know you're happy to see them, but like, what do you think about them getting one shot? Like, I thought it was fucking hilarious. Like, I knew
um
as soon as Reed Richards said like, oh, we don't fucking give a shit about her. Like, oh, they're all gonna die, or they're all gonna be like defeated super quick in a hilarious way. I didn't think they were gonna get slaughtered, but again, this is why I really think this movie should have been rated R. Because I can
yeah.
imagine taking your kids to see it, like, okay, the monster thing, like, it's PG-13, it's getting a little edgy, it's fine, and then this happens, and this is like fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like, it's just,
Yeah, I don't know
it
if it
was,
served a real purpose in
mm,
terms of story. It
mm,
was cool, and we don't actually care. Like, even though it's like, because the last one who dies is Professor X.
yeah. That's right. I apologize. I forgot to mention. So they get into it. So what happens is after she one shots most of the Illuminati, as she starts walking towards America, and America's like, "Oh, I can control my power by fucking punching something," and like makes a star dent, like in the glass, like they're trying to
Hmm.
get her out of the glass and stuff like that. And it's just funny because Doctor Strange says, "Oh, the scientists always die first." Like whatever, like something like this happens. Basically, he's talking about like whenever like a secret facility is breached by an ultra powerful violent thing. So we keep thinking she's gonna die, but she ends up not doing it. But anyway,
Well, if
so
Reed dies, he's a
yeah,
scientist.
no fuck, who cares about Reed? He's being an asshole. So they're trying to break out. America punches the glass and makes a star jet. And they're like, whoa! And then Professor Xavier shows up, and he uses his mind magic, and he points at her, and he looks at her, and then we get turtleneck Patrick Stewart looking like he just like walked out from directing a direction of Shakespeare or something like that, premiere night.
Or like promoting a commercial, like,
Yeah, yeah,
or the
yeah.
places you go.
Whatever. Anyway, so he sees Wanda Maximoff, or at least this universe, Wanda Maximoff, trapped in like what looks like some sort of like underground bunker.
It's like a
There's
mind prison.
yeah, there's like war playing in the background, and then the red cloud starts sneaking up on him, and it's obviously supposed to be like our version of Wanda, and he's like, oh, like Snapple. He's sitting there like taking deep breaths because I think it's supposed to be like it's a mindscape, so obviously the red clouds overtaking everything and eventually surrounding him is like, oh shit, and then he gets his neck snapped, and then he gets jerked out of the fucking mind palace, and then he's just fucking flips over on the thing.
Never
And
saw Jean
apparently
Grey do that.
that's the third on-screen death of Sir Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier. Apparently that's the third time he's died on screen. So
Yeah, well, I mean,
glad to know that's a recurring thing that people care about.
yeah, I think
I do like the cameo. Like I thought it was great. I thought it was a pretty good cameo. All
yeah.
things considered, I thought the wheelchair was awesome. And yeah.
Yeah, like I said, like I don't know what purpose it actually serves for the story, but it's cool, like, and it's like another uh, stamp on how powerful Wanda is.
Yeah.
Like,
I
and
think that's what they were trying to do is just cement that like
yeah, but we
100%.
know that, like,
Mm,
and I guess it is to also build, like, to give America that little more sense of control.
mm,
But at the end, it's like, because we're in this alternate universe, these characters are all expendable anyway.
yeah,
So it's
pretty much.
like it's not like, oh, we can't ever have Black Bolt now. Like, well, we can. We can have him from a bunch of other universes. Like, we can have
Yep.
any of these characters. Like, and the same actors will likely play them because, as we see, Benedict Cumberbatch plays Doctor Strange in every universe he goes to, and Rachel McAdams is Christine in every universe they go to.
Except for Spider-Man, which is the one thing I wanted to bring up. Why is Spider-Man different? Is there a reason for
Well,
that, or is that just a plot hole?
so it could be the difference between universes or timelines, or
Then why aren't all the other characters different? See, that's I feel like it's a giant plot hole that nobody was talking about.
I feel like it's not a plot hole in the way that um in other universes other people can be the heroes, kind of like Spider-Man won't always be the same person in every universe. The problem is Peter Parker should be the same in every universe, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, obviously, like Ultimate Universe, well, it was Peter Parker before he got killed, and then it was Miles Morales, right? So like Spider-Man in Ultimate Universe is not the Spider-Man of our universe, even though they're one and the same now because of an incursion that happened in Super Wars. But yeah, like you'd expect it to, but I don't think it has to be, right? Like, you could chalk it up to like their older versions with different styles.
There you sure, whatever. You need to sleep at night. Anyway, so they run away like when Professor Xavier and Wanda were in that Metal Mind Palace. America and the other scientists later ran away, and they go to this underground tunnel, which leads to the path of the opposite of the Darkhold book.
The Book of Ashanti.
Yep.
Sorry.
Oh, so good. You just passed through the microphone to me. Thanks. So they're running through this tunnel, and there's kind of like I mean, it's like cute, like it's like they're running, like they meet up with Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange basically tricks out this Mordo, the universe's Mordo, while he's talking shit to him the entire time. But essentially, in the long run, all that really matters is that he escapes.
That was a pretty lame fight scene, though.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely one of the weaker points in the movie. It's just like a reason for Doctor Strange to escape. So that's what happens. And then they run through the tunnels. There's like they're running away from Wanda, who is like Elizabeth Olsen, and she's just like limping. She's doing like this limp walk while she's covered in oil and blood at this point. I don't care what anyone says. There's definitely a lot of blood mixed up with that. Whatever the fuck's scattered all over her face.
Just looked like oil to me.
I think there's probably blood there too. So it looks really horror because it's supposed to be like a chase scene, and it's just dumb because they drop one grate in front of her and then she blows that one away, and they drop another one, and she just can't. She wants to get around this one, another one, and there's like this really stupid slow-mo sequence where like, where did she go? And then she just pops up, and it's like, oh, it's a jump scare, ha ha ha, horror, ha ha ha. And then they keep running away even more.
Yeah. Also to note, Doctor Strange was bound in handcuffs that use the sands of Nisanti, and that's essentially like a power-induced sand that prevents you from using magic. So anyone within a certain radius of the sands of Nisanti cannot use magic. So
yeah, so that's why he was bound the entire time.
That's why the fight was lame.
Yeah. And it makes Mordo look like a huge douchebag that doesn't know what he's doing, which is hard if you're trying to use him as a villain later, because we already know he's already had this dumb encounter where
Yeah.
Anyway, so then that jump scare scene happens, and they run away again, and so basically the jump scare was like pointless, and there wasn't really a use for it at all. They get to the Book of Ashanti or whatever it is. It's like right there, and then there's like a callback to the very opening of the movie where they're like, "Oh, we're almost there." Like we're Doctor Strange says that, and I think it was supposed to be a callback to the opening sequence of the movie.
Yeah, that's another thing that is throughout the movie, is like in the beginning the Doctor Strange tried to steal her power to like save people or whatever, and now she's like traumatized from that, so she thinks everybody's trying to steal her power. Yeah.
Wanda is trying to steal her power.
Wanda is trying to steal her power.
I don't even think we ever talked about this. Like, the reason Wanda is going evil and crazy is because she doesn't have any kids, and she keeps having dreams where she has kids, and she just wants to go to another universe, still like blow up that universe of Wanda, and supplant herself and pretend like she has kids. And then as the movie's going on and on, it's like, oh, she's going to build basically like an interdimensional empire based around providing for her children. and it's like going crazier and crazier by the
Yeah,
second.
and she needs America's powers to be
Just
able to
travel to
travel to the other dimension where she will supplant the
yeah
other version of herself as the mother, and
yeah
somehow doesn't think that's a terrible idea because her kids will somehow never find out.
yeah. So they're in this universe. They're about to get the Book of Ashanti. Doctor Strange opens it up, and then Wanda shows up, and the book gets like burnt or something. I don't know. Like she's throwing evil magic, and oh no, the book's gone. And then America freaks out, and they all get launched to another dimension. Great. Is that how
No,
it goes?
no.
Oh, Wanda
Wanda
captures. That's right.
Wanda
Wanda captures.
captures her and kicks Strange and Christine into a different dimension.
Yeah. So and then Wanda goes and begins to steal America's power, and like again, this classic movie trope, like I'm gonna do this ritual, and it's gonna take the exact amount of time it needs for like the hero to show up and save the day. So that's what's happening, like this evil ritual thing, whatever. Um, and then Doctor Strange and the Science Lady are at destroyed fucked up version of New York, which is all interdimensionally fucked up, and it's really cool looking, and I love it every second that they're there. So then they go then they go again to the sanctum. They find it perched on the edge of this like distorting world. They go and speak with, well, I'm sorry, our universe, Doctor Strange goes speaks with this universe's Doctor Strange because they see him moving in the window and they realize he's the only one that's left alive. Is there anything you want to add at this point, or pretty much on like straight on the
I
narrow?
mean, he just third eyes that bitch. He's just like, "Hey, I'm the evil Doctor Strange, and I
Yeah,
use the bad book."
yep. To
And
try and improve my relationship, to try and get laid, and I kept doing it, and I blew up universes because I wanted to get my dick wet, or maybe because he wants to fall in love and feel love in return. I don't know.
yeah,
Anyway,
because he's not happy because again the theme, we're not happy, so no one can be happy, and
yeah,
use the Darkhold because fuck you.
yeah.
Because every version of Doctor Strange is bad, and everyone will resort to using the Darkhold to achieve things so they can play God.
Yeah.
Um,
So they get into a magical duel, basically Strange versus Strange, but this one Strange has a dark hold, so he's got a little bit of advantage. But then a very interesting sequence begins where they fight using musical notes. I loved
mhm.
every second of it because our Doctor Strange was using lighter, much more gentle notes, and the other Doctor Strange was something very bass, very just dark,
Yeah,
organdy
dissonant
sort of.
chords and
Yeah,
yeah.
and it was great. And one pluck from the harp, it upsets the whole spell, and he blows up the Darkhold, and he launches that Dark Strange out the window.
Well, he doesn't blow up the Darkhold because he does
Uh,
actually use it.
oh yeah, he uses the Darkhold. That's right. Well, he uses a spell from a harp to like a little string from a harp to blow up the spell to launch the other Doctor Strange out the window.
Hmm.
Now I'm not sure if this is a reference, but there's this book called Dragonlance, and in this book it's a D&D setting, and in this book an evil sorcerer gets thrown out the window of his wizard's tower and he gets impaled on the grating below, and that's exactly what happens to this Doctor Strange. Is he gets tossed out the window and he gets impaled on the railing around the fencing around
To
the
be fair, that also happened to Saruman in the Return of the King movie, the extended
yeah.
edition.
Oh,
Not in the book, but so maybe that's
oh
also a callback to that.
yeah, maybe.
But
We call
well,
back
I
to
mean, it was the big wheel, and
maybe wizards getting thrown off towers and impaled on things, just a running universal theme that I'm not aware of.
maybe.
Anyway, so Doctor Strange gets Darkhold. He's gonna dreamwalk, calls him a hypocrite, all this stuff. He's going I have to. You sound like our Doctor Strange. Like, don't worry, it's me. I'm me. I'm special. Blah blah blah. Whatever.
Oh yeah.
Just,
Also, something we skipped over
yep.
was when America first showed up in our 616 universe. She
Mm.
brought dead Defender's
Oh
Doctor Strange with her,
yeah. It's a dead body.
and
So
Doctor
he
Strange buried him.
buries his body. Yep. And then so Doctor Strange is like, okay, I'm gonna dreamwalk into my dead body in this other universe, which I'm told is I was told that this was peak Sam Raimi, basically. Like everything happening with Zombie Strange was like peak Sam Raimi.
Yeah, because he did Evil Dead, which is like a zombie themed thing, which also has
Yeah,
Bruce Campbell in it. I've never seen it, but hey, to each his own.
yeah. So this Doctor Strange he uses a sling ring. He's teleporting. It's really funny. I also want to mention Doc Dead Strange was all practical effects. The entire costume was made up, and it looked fantastic. I love to see like just old school Hollywood murderers horror shit like that with the like the makeup and all
But
the
the evil
clay.
demons was not practical effects.
No, that was not. So these demons were like, oh, strange, it's forbidden to to walk in a dead body, blah blah blah, and they start dragging them down to like Blizzard Hell or whatever the fuck it is. And there's a callback to the first Doctor Strange movie where Doctor Science Lady, she gets this brazier. That I'm gonna keep calling her something.
Science lady.
Yes, I'm gonna keep calling her because I don't fucking know the name of her name. Know her name. So
She's a doctor. Or a
she's
nurse.
Doctor Lady, whatever. So basically, in the first movie, the Sanctum in New York is breached, and Doctor Strange is fighting the main bad guy, and he doesn't know what he's doing. He pulls out this urn, and he's like, "Oh, you don't know what that does, do you?" And he's like, "Nope," and then he throws it at him. But in this movie, this Doctor Lady finds a brazier, and I guess if you like light a match in front of it, it like goes off like an intergalactic fart, like it turns into napalm or something like that.
Mm.
And yeah, so I just thought that was a little fun callback to the first movie. So eventually, like, they beat the shit out of these dark spirits. She's whispering into Doctor Strange's ear, like, use her power, and he starts collecting these little evil spirits, turns them into like dark wings for like a really cool little sequence where he's like this, zombie corpse being held aloft with these dark wings. And then he takes off. And he's flying towards the evil demon temple. Sorry, is there anything I'm skipped over so far? Like, like just more stuff.
At some point, Wong fell off a
Yeah,
cliff.
he got thrown off by the Scarlet Witch, but I guess he survived. And my rule of thumb is if you don't see them die directly on screen, they didn't die. Like a lot
Yeah.
of people are like, "Oh, Wong got thrown off, so that means he died." And like, oh no, he
No, he
didn't.
wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, he died fighting like the brick monsters or something.
Yeah,
I
well,
don't.
yeah, and so he gets underneath, and he like Doctor Strange is flying at them, and Wong is down beneath. He sees them casting spells, so Wong uses his magical whip chain thing to kill the first big demon, and then Doctor Strange gets behind the other ones because they're throwing rocks at Wong. And he uses like a force spell to like push the other demons off, and then he lands. He's like, "I'm here, bitch," and the Scarlet Witch is like, "Oh, you're fucking dream walking into that body. You're a fucking skank hoe, and I don't respect you." and then they
Yeah.
and then they just start having magical duel. There's magic going off everywhere. Like they're using spells on Wanda. Wanda's being OP. America's like, "Oh, it's okay, Doctor Strange, you can take my power." And then Doctor Strange is like,
Because
"No, it's
Wong tells him you have to take her
her
power.
power." Yeah. And then Doctor Strange is like, "Okay," and then walks up.
Doctor Strange says, "I am not like the other Doctor Stranges. I am not gonna play God." Theme number one.
Yep, yep,
I do not need to hold the scalpel. Theme number two. I am
yep,
satisfied with my life. Theme number three.
yep.
You can do this. I will empower you. You have the
Yeah.
power
And
to
then
stop this.
the plot conveniently wakes up in America's mind, and all of a sudden she has masterful control over her power. Uh,
Yeah.
so she uses it to show the Scarlet Witch, as she currently is, to her children that she was going to kidnap.
In front of
Um,
their real mom, who she dream walked into.
yep. And then that mom has a poor reaction, and then the Scarlet Witch, like, throws that mom to the side, and then it upsets the children. And they start throwing like, "You're not our mom. You're a monster. Don't hurt us." Blah blah blah. And then Scarlet Witch like has an emotional breakdown or emotional realization, or I'm not sure what happened. Whatever.
Yeah, we also
Um,
skipped over the creepy ice cream songs that her kids sang to her when she dreamwalked into the other
yeah,
mom.
yeah. When it's basically just fulfilling her life's wishes of like, this is what she wants. It was just reinforcing that, like, she really
Yeah.
wants kids. It's what it boils down to. It's why she's willing to take
Well,
a role in
she
these
had
dimensions.
kids and lost them and wanted them
Yeah,
back. That
yeah,
so, yeah.
yeah.
I don't know why she didn't want Vision back, but apparently
It's
it's
just
because he
make
doesn't
more
exist
kids.
in other worlds. But there's White Vision.
I don't. I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We're just gonna not talk about that.
Yeah. But yeah.
So America closes that portal. Scarlet Witch is like, "Oh, I've been a fucking skanko this entire time. I guess I'm just gonna drop this temple on myself. Long in America, leave." Doctor Strange is a zombie, so he's like sitting there with Wanda, and they have like a conversation. And like, "Oh, I gotta seal myself away," and then she collapses the temple on herself, and I still think she's alive.
Yeah,
Um, you know,
probably. Yeah, and then America
yeah,
goes and recovers him from his alternate
yeah,
dimension.
yep.
And
Uh,
does Christine come, or she?
she
They
gets dropped off. They
she
have
gets
another
dropped off.
they have a conversation, but it's like it's time for me to go home, and it's time for you to go home too.
Yeah.
And then yeah, and then America becomes a student at the Wizard Temple school place. that has a very specific name, Shangri-La, whatever the fuck, I don't know.
Convertage.
Convertage, and it's like a homage again to the first movie where she's like struggling to open up a portal and do like the weird stuff, and it's just like Doctor Strange, and then Doctor Strange bows to Wong, and it's like really respectful and
Yeah,
scene between the two.
well,
Yeah, because you're supposed to bow to the Sorcerer Supreme, so Doctor Strange does that because he's not the Sorcerer Supreme. He just watches the New York Sanctum.
yeah.
Is there anything else I'm missing? I feel like it all wraps up pretty quick, honestly.
Doctor Strange goes home
Yeah.
to his sanctum and he dresses like a normal person and walks out his
He
house.
he fixes the watch. Is another thing I thought it was a really touching
He
scene.
fixes the watch that he got as a gift from Christine.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to be such an edgy asshole anymore, and I think he was keeping the watch broken to like represent his like broken heart or something.
Yeah. And before he left Wong was like, "Hey, you use the Darkhold, my guy. You don't just get to do that." And he's like, "Nah, I'm fine. Nothing's gonna happen to me."
I used it for like 5 seconds. Come on, man.
No worries. I didn't just take over a dead body for like an hour and a half. No worries.
Yeah. It's not like there were demons trying to drag my eternal soul to hell or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. It's like in Hercules when those ladies can't cut my hair because I'm a god, all right? Like,
technically, I did kill myself, but it doesn't really matter.
No problem at all. Yeah, and then
so he starts walking down the street in normal clothes. He's like folding over, screaming, "Ah!" And then he gets a third eye, which I don't know anything about because I don't read the comics, which I'm sure you can talk about because I don't know fucking what the third eye represents.
No, I'm not. I can't really speak to that, to be honest, either.
No.
I can speak to the post-credit scene, but not to the third eye thing. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I've read a lot of Doctor Strange, and there's a lot of times he does stupid shit and gets cursed. Like, they're like one of my favorites is like the comic book ends and he's like laying on the ground all in black and white. You see like all this blood coming out of his eyes, and Wong's like, "Miss Doctor Strange, your eyes are bleeding," and he's like, "Well, that's new." like he just always has like weird shit happening to him because he's kind of a dumbass at times.
Gets third eye.
So yeah, do you find the resolution of this movie to be satisfying?
I think Wanda sealing herself away was an interesting way to do it. I really thought after after the horrors of what happened to the Illuminati that maybe she would like get overwhelmed by her own power, or maybe that she would get dragged down to hell like Doctor Strange was dragged down to hell. Do
you think she was too far gone?
I do. I think after what she did to Captain Carter and everything like that, I think she was a little bit out there. I think
it's very odd to me because like Doctor Strange throughout the movie was trying to reason with her and say what is your actual plan? Like, you're gonna just kill another version of yourself and take over as the mom of these kids? Like, your kids won't like that. And she's like, well, they'll never know, blah blah blah. Like, she doesn't care. She has no remorse.
And also the plan escalates too. Like, Wong asks her what are you gonna do? Like, you're just gonna settle with one dimension? She's like, no, of course not. Like, what if my kids get sick? Like, what if this happens? What if that happens? Like, in the multiverse, there's possibly everything they could want or need, and it's all mine for the taking. So that plan keeps escaping where it sounds
and
like
then
she's trying to
the way they stop her is to show her that her kids are terrified of that version of her. Don't you think she would have just mind controlled her kids?
Yeah, she would have not cared at that point. I think that they probably
I get it.
I think they walked it back because I think there's a lot of people that really like this version of the Scarlet Witch, as in people like this version, the Elizabeth Olsen Scarlet Witch.
Sure.
And I think they wanted to see her have not at least a good ending, or at least an ending where they don't feel like complete trash for liking her character, So I think that's what a little bit all about that wedding.
The confusing thing was at the end of WandaVision, she heard her kids crying out for her help, not kids in another dimension that belonged to another mom.
Yeah.
It led me to believe that she would try to find her kids somewhere. They didn't just disappear off the face of the earth. She created them, sure, but they existed. So when that reality ended, where did they go?
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I was thinking. They're in another reality, and she wants to try to recover them from that reality. What it turned out to be is, well, she's just going to go steal another version of herself's kids.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I get it. It's she came to this realization that, like, well, if she did do all this stuff, like, it wasn't enough to be told your kids will hate you or whatever. Like, she had to experience that, and that's what brought Wanda back to the forefront more so than the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
But, like, she was so far gone. Like, like, Wanda was getting saved from her mind to become, the conscious version.
Her resolution was a lot softer than I think you and I, based on what the storytelling they were building up with. Her resolution was a lot softer than obviously it ought to should have been. I just think that they did a little bit of a softer landing because I think there's a lot of people that really like the character. And I think, like, they really needed to keep that PG-13 rating. And if, like, the end scene was Wanda, like, getting her soul dragged down to hell and was screaming, "Oh, I just wanted to help my boys, no!"
Well,
or something like horrible like that, whatever Sam Raimi could have cooked up in his mind, because after seeing this movie, I'm pretty sure that guy can cook up some really fucked up shit.
Yeah. So, and again, like, it is a Doctor Strange movie. Like, as much as it's, like, odd to think about it in this way, like, you could look at America Chavez and Wanda's story as the subplot. Because, like, if you take Doctor Strange out of this movie, I mean, the movie is America Chavez is your protagonist and Wanda is your antagonist. Like, her goal is to take that girl's powers, and that her job is to get control of her powers and stop her, right? Yeah. If you get rid of Doctor Strange, that's what the movie is. But that's not, because if we go back to all the themes we discussed earlier, this is Doctor Strange's movie. It is his story. And it's a story of how he has to learn about himself and overcome inherent urges he may have to always be in control and to always play God. And it goes back to something that you can look at Moon Knight and say the same thing as with Star Wars. The antagonist of the first Star Wars movie, of A New Hope, is not Darth Vader. Luke is not concerned about Darth Vader. Luke is not concerned about the Emperor. Luke proves this by saying, when they're like, "Oh, it's a 2 meter wide, that's so small." And he says, "I used to bullseye Womp-Rats in my T-16. They're no bigger than 2 meters." He has all the confidence in the world. What he has to do to win is overcome his own mind. He's his own antagonist. He has to believe in something bigger than himself so that he can destroy the Death Star. Just like Moon Knight, the biggest antagonist for Mark Spector, Stephen Grant, blah, 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 is himself. Arthur Harrow didn't pose that big of an issue. He has to overcome his own mind. And again, Doctor Strange, pretty much in this movie, is his own antagonist. Wanda is maybe the villain of the movie, but the antagonist is Strange, right? Yeah. And so if you look at this from the only perspective you can, that it's a Doctor Strange movie, the Wanda's conflict with America Chavez is a subplot. He facilitates it, and it's only able to happen because he overcomes his own urges to always be in control and helps America get control of her powers, right? So maybe for some people that maybe will help them like the movie more or whatever. I think it's a deeper way to look at the film instead of just baseline Doctor Strange versus Wanda,
Yeah. So let's see, just to wrap it up, the summary. And then after, everything goes away. And I'm just trying to think, what else happens.
Post credit.
We get the post credit. Well, we get the mid post credit scene,
which is the only important one. The other one.
Yeah, this hot chick shows up out of this weird looking dimension. She's like, "You fucked everything up, Strange. Now you gotta come with me, or else you're a fucking skank hoe." And then Doctor Strange's like, "Well, I'm not a skank hoe." And then he fucking flexes and puts on his outfit, and he opens his third eye to let him know what's up.
She opens a portal to the dark dimension.
Yep, and then they take off. So,
people, again, may be confused. Who is this wonderfully beautiful woman played by Charlize Theron? That's Clea. In comics, Clea marries Doctor Strange, so that's his future wife right there.
Waifu.
Yeah, and she has crazy powers, so. And then the second post-credit scene is Bruce Campbell stops beating himself up finally and says, "That's it."
Yeah, he looks into the camera and he goes, "It's over." And then it's...
Yeah,
which is really funny. I genuinely thought it was entertaining. I know, most people are probably looking for a little spoiler or something, but it's whatever.
Yeah. So where does that leave us, right? Because people at the end of this movie look and say, Phase 4, we've had Eternals. we've had Shang-Chi, we've had No Way Home, and we've had Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And if you look at previous Marvel films, people say, well, there was a clear plan. I don't necessarily agree that there was a clear plan. If you watch Captain America 1, I mean, what's the clear plan? I mean, they're building towards the Avengers, but that's not inherent necessarily within that movie. Sure, at the end it kind of is because, they wakes up in the current year and whatever. But I think it's more clear from Doctor Strange what the future plan is than all the other movies.
Yeah, I think this is definitely like, I'm trying to think of a comparison, like something that set like what set up Endgame like more than anything, like not Endgame, but like the first Infinity War movie, because that's what everything was going towards. Like that was the event, that was the thing. That's like what was supposed to be summed up.
Right.
Well, it was like, and there was one movie that really started moving that plot of the Infinity Stones forward, and I think it was probably Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, because that was the first time we see Well, the first Doctor Strange. Doesn't the first Doctor Strange? No, the first Doctor Strange doesn't talk about the Infinity Stones.
It talks about one, but these are planned, right? So Infinity War was built up over the first 2 phases, 3 phases ish, right? Like, because the first stone is in the Avengers. Yeah. Well, it's actually in Captain America 1.
Yeah, the Mind Stone.
It's the the Tesseract.
Yeah.
No, the Mind Stone is in Loki's staff.
Okay, so
the Tesseract is Space Stone, yeah.
Yeah.
So like you can see, like, these are built up over a lot of movies, right? Like a lot of different movies. But you can look at individual movies and you could say there's no plan with how this will tie in. Look at Thor Ragnarok. Look at Black Panther. Look at the first Ant-Man. Like, these are all one-off movies that play into the bigger MCU, but they don't necessarily move your story forward to it.
Yeah, like in this movie, just to solidify, like, it really does. It's, I think, the point. Like, if I'm talking about like the major purpose of it in the greater scheme of things, is really just to introduce people to the concept of the multiverse. Really like the first Saw, like, it's like name dropped and like hinted at, but in this movie, it's really just like, oh, there's hundreds of millions of different universes beyond our own, with like a whole hundreds of different of heroes and villains and all this kind of stuff.
Right. Well, I mean, and again, like, if you relate certain movies to other movies, you can see that they don't need to do what people are suggesting they need to do. If you look at Shang-Chi, for me, you most closely relate it to Black Panther, which don't actively move the quote-unquote universe to something. They're just good movies, one-off movies. If you look at No Way Home, there are elements of that could move forward, but that moves more forward into Doctor Strange than anything else, and into a Spider-Man sequel, right? If you look at Eternals, again, to me, this feels like a one-off movie. It feels like Thor Ragnarok. Cool, fun movie. Lots of great things happen. It's cool. It's exciting. It's fun. People didn't necessarily like Eternals, but whatever. What moves the universe forward more than all of those are the TV shows, WandaVision, Loki, and then people will look at Moon Knight by itself and say, well, that doesn't move the universe forward. Again, it doesn't have to. And if we look at what the direction of the MCU is, it's expanding into, like you said, other multiverses. And on top of that, we get the key word right here in this movie. Incursions.
Yep.
If you're looking for what's the next big event, like, there has to be one. There doesn't have to be one. I mean, the Avengers movies are pretty much done. We might see other big team up movies, but it's not necessarily going to be called the Avengers, and it's not going to be the Avengers as we've known them. It'll be a new team.
Yeah.
If you're looking for what that big event may be, it's probably going to be Secret Wars. Like, that's the closest thing we'll get to a big event. If you're looking for another overarching big bad outside of Secret Wars, I mean, we know we're getting Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man 3. Kang is a huge villain. Kang can be, like, he travels through time and space, and there's a lot of directions you can go with traveling through time and space, and a lot of stories to be told there. And as someone who can do that, you're going to be a pretty big bad, right? Like, if you're looking for other people who can be great big villains like Thanos was. You're looking at characters like Doctor Doom. You're looking at characters like Galactus. And these are all things that they could be building up and moving towards. It's just we have to wait and see. Like, you can't just say, I feel lost because they're giving us these movies and there's no direction. Well, you don't know what their direction is, so you think there's no direction. But there's very clearly things they're setting up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you know, like, I didn't, like, it's just the movies leading up to the Avengers. Like, they didn't really seem to have that much direction, but, you know, you're right. They had their little bits and nuggets you could follow, and also they were just really good movies. That's the thing. Like, and at the end of the day, Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness is a solid movie. It really is.
I mean, you can say, like, the more recent phases are more nuanced, but if you're looking at phase 1, like, the entire end goal of Thor, Captain America, Iron Man 1, Iron Man 2, and the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk movie, was the Avengers Initiative, to bring all those characters together. Like, that's not that crazy. Like, that's not like a crazy end game, you know? Like, that's just like, hey, we're going to make the Avengers. Nobody was thinking about Thanos at that point, and then we got Thanos. We got Thanos in 2012 in an end credit scene, and you know what? We don't see him again until 2014 in Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's not even a villain until 2017 in Infinity War. Like, that's 5 years after his first appearance in a movie before he's like the main antagonist in a film, right? And some people will say, like, oh, look at all the great planning, all this great stuff they did. And it's like, well, yeah, sure. But, like, what did it actually do? You know, like, phase 2 was all about getting to Thanos. It was all about all of our Infinity Stones. And, like, they really forced a lot of that in Age of Ultron, right?
Yeah.
And sure, they're building. But, like, you get big movies that also help push that narrative forward, and phase 4 has just started.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there will be more movies, and maybe they won't all make sense. Maybe people will say, well, how does Blade play into this, and how are they gonna, you know, make Shang-Chi 2 play into this, or how does Shang-Chi 1 even play into this? And it's like, well, how did Iron Man 3 play into anything? Like, they just ignored that entire movie after it was over.
Yeah, they didn't make any more Iron Mans.
He was like, I give up. I'm blowing up all my suits. And the next time you see him, he's fighting again.
Yeah.
He's right there in fucking Sokovia and shit. Like,
yeah, making more with different suits. He's got the Hulkbuster suit.
Yeah, he blew up all his suits and then he made Ultron. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and to, like, just there's also like the general motive, like, how long are these movies going to go on? How long is the MCU going to be expanding for? And there's one simple way to answer this: it's as long as it'll make money.
Yeah.
As long as it makes shitloads of cash for Disney and all of its affiliates, they're gonna keep cranking out Marvel movies.
Yeah.
1, because there's plenty of material for them to draw from, and 2, because they make a shitload of money.
Exactly.
Like the Avengers compound at the Disney World Disneyland is a thing. And it's a thing that they spent a shitload of money on, and they knew they wanted to spend a shitload of money on because people would go there and they would buy overpriced merchandise and they would stare at the cool things behind the glass containers and they would take pictures. And
I mean, I can't wait to go to Star Wars Land and buy another lightsaber. I'm just saying.
Exactly, dude. Overpriced merchandise. That's what it's at. Star Wars. It's Disneyland. It's the best. Did you get any? I know you. Did you when you went to the compound? Did they have merch there? I forgot. Like, I didn't even ask you.
I didn't go to Disneyland. I went to Avengers Station in Las Vegas.
Oh, okay.
And they did have merchandise there, and it was extremely overpriced.
Yeah, that's yeah.
They had a T-shirt just like this with Spider-Man. Yep. It had Spider-Man on it, and it was like one of the newer drawings of Spider-Man from like 2016. And I thought it looked sick. It was like his newer suit with like the green glow to it. Yep. And I thought it looked sick. And I looked at the price. It's $40.
Nice.
$40 for a T-shirt, and I get it. That's not that expensive in terms of T-shirts that people are willing to spend. I've never spent more than like $18 on a T-shirt. I don't get it.
Yeah, there's some band shirts like when I went on tours and stuff like that. When I've gotten some pretty expensive shirts, like when I was at Ozfest, I got 2 shirts, and I think each shirt was like $35. But at least it was a unique design for that year, you know. And to like,
yeah, I don't know. Every concert I go to, like T-shirts like this, like $20 or $25. Like if you're getting like a long sleeve, like they'll charge more, like $30 to $35. It's a sweater. Sometimes they charge like $60, but I don't know. I've never seen a T-shirt like for like $35-40 at a concert. But
Yeah.
Ozfest is, it's Ozfest.
And then when I saw Rob Zombie, Marilyn Manson on Twins of Evil 2, that was pretty. The merch is pretty expensive, but I think it's because of superpower, like name power. So, but yeah, but boiling down to my original point, they're going to keep making Marvel movies until they start flopping out or the audience loses interest, and I don't think it will at least anytime soon. As long as movies are good, the creative power is there. People love these kind of things. People still go see DC movies when they come out, even though they know they're gonna be fucking disappointed. Like Batman versus Superman still made money. People still went to see it.
Not a lot, to be honest.
Not a lot, but the reason they didn't make a lot is because people saw it once. They didn't see it like 2 or 3 times in a row, like some people will. Like people are probably gonna see the movie at least twice. Like I have a feeling like a lot of people are gonna see the movie again just to see it again.
Yeah,
And
I think the thing people have been waiting an hour and a half for us to say is what our ratings are on this movie.
oh yeah, we had to subscribe numerical and or like alphabetical.
Just 2 out of 10.
I'd probably give it like a 7.5, maybe
Really?
maybe like close to an 8. Yeah, like it wasn't like the greatest movie. It didn't blow me out of the water. It was really cool. It was really fun. But at the end of the day, it was kind of just another Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel the same way. I give it a 7, but I thought you and Daniel, who we saw with, I thought you guys rated it way more highly than I did.
yeah, I thought I enjoyed seeing it. I'm probably gonna go see it a second time.
Yeah, I'll see it a second time too.
Yeah, but like as for my favorite of all time, like no, the original Doctor Strange was just I don't know. I love the original Doctor Strange so much. And I don't know why, but that'll always be my top 10 out of 10 movie for the Marvel universe. But
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I feel like this movie had a lot of great moments, but
it also had a lot of weak moments.
Overall, it wasn't as comprehensive as it could have been. I can tell you, I think all this stuff about all these themes or whatever, and you might have saw the movie and said, I didn't see any of that, which is fair.
I was too busy looking, wishing Elizabeth Olsen would tuck me into bed and whisper goodnight to me like she was to her boys.
Yeah.
Sorry, big distraction. Also, they got rid of her corset. Very upset. Whatever. I guess they had to give her an outfit where they weren't giant. Her chest wasn't all out in the open. So whatever.
Yeah.
I guess we can't have all what we want.
When I left the movie, I didn't know how to feel because I was like, yeah, there are good moments, but it didn't feel like a fully formed story necessarily. Like the way America's powers work, she has no control of it, but somehow they end up everywhere they need to be without any it's just kind of arbitrary, and so it didn't make a lot of sense when I think about it. And what makes me feel better about the movie is just thinking about the themes and connecting them and how those stories work, but not everybody's going to want to view it that way. And some people are going to say, well, the movie wasn't memorable or the fight scenes weren't great or this or that. And some people look at, this is the brilliance of being an individual. You watched that Strange versus Strange scene with the music notes and stuff, and you thought that was awesome. And some people are going to say that's stupid,
Yeah.
Which is their opinion and they can have it. And it's I thought it was pretty interesting, but also kind of campy. It's one of those things where if it works, it works. But if it doesn't, it's awful. I thought it worked, but some people might think it didn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, I give it a 7 out of 10. It's a good movie. It doesn't set the world on fire. It's not the best movie ever. It's not the worst.
Like I said, it does have legitimately weak parts. That memory scene where they're stand in this spot and get this one fucking memory that's super important to the core of your character read out on a screen conveniently for the other character to see, so you guys can understand each other without having to have any real dialogue or relationship growth.
Stand here and show the world your most private memories.
Yeah, your horrific trauma. And that was a really stupid, weak scene. And the fight between Mordo and Strange, in the when Strange escapes, is a really stupid and weak scene. It was way too campy, and Mordo's left hanging. He's I can see why my Mordo didn't like you very much.
Yeah, I mean, the memory scene served a purpose. And an important purpose for the movie, but the vehicle they used to give that purpose,
very weak storytelling, very weak storytelling.
They could have done it better, They
They did it better with fucking Professor X just saying, "Oh, here, let me use my mind magic to show you this important scene of when Black Bolt fucking one shots are Strange," even though
right.
yeah.
And oh, this was another thing.
Mm,
Felt weird. Dreams are mirrors or into or like dreams are windows into other realities.
yeah,
And so America Chavez doesn't dream. I feel like they could have left all that out because
yeah,
like it just eliminates all other dream possibilities of anything. Like you can't have a dream about your actual past because hey, that would have to be some kind of alternate dimension. Like you could have done the memory scene through dreams.
yeah,
But then, he wouldn't have seen her in his dream. Like, they had to tie that in, but
yeah. And the dream thing, like
they could have done this in a more
they
creative
use the
way.
dream thing as the initial way to jumpstart Wanda's fall. Aside from using the Darkhold, they also use it as a way for she has dreams where she has her kids and then she
Yeah.
wakes up into a nightmare. And I get that as someone who has suffered from sleeping, as someone who's had difficulty sleeping due to things that happen when you're asleep. I get that a lot, but also at the same time, just kind of a weak way of getting her started. That dreams thing it serves us they only bring it up once or twice, and or they bring it up for a joke.
They
And
bring it
then
up like 3 times. I mean, like one is Wanda with her
yeah,
kids. One is, I mean, the opening sequence where Strange wakes up and like he's like, "Oh, I saw me die in another dimension," and hey, look, there's that girl from my dream.
yeah.
And then they brought it up again when she says, "I don't dream. I'm one of a kind, bitches."
Yep.
So
I think really that's about it. I mean, we went over the summarize. It was a good movie. It had weaker points. I think it was just it was original. It was unique. It was different. That's for me the things I like, and just because it has those elements that it's original and it's unique, as in Doctor Zombie Strange flying around on wings of little tiny demonettes, and he's having a musical battle, which is kind of a philosophical battle between him and his other selves. Essentially, that's kind of what I inferred from that scene because I used my big artist brain to infer. I'm just kidding, but and I'm excited for what comes next. It's kind of rekindled my hope in the MCU because I'll be honest, after watching No Way Home, which is that's one, right? Where the premise of No Way Home, and this is something you and I could probably talk about later. Now, the more I think about it, is really, really, really stupid. Doctor Strange, make these people forget. Oh, okay, you're casting a spell. Oh, what about this person and this person and this person? And he fucks up the spell. That was so fucking stupid.
it makes sense though, because he's 17. He's a dumb kid who's just making kids make very rash decisions.
Do you know who wasn't 17 in that fucking scene? Dr. Stephen Strange. You think Doctor Strange might have wanted to ask Stephen? Okay.
No, because he doesn't give a shit. It's not his life. He's just he's arrogant. He knows he can do it. He's like, hey, man, I got you. Woo, 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 woo. And he's like, oh, you're fucking up the spell, motherfucker.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought it was really stupid.
I think you just don't like Spider-Man.
I think maybe that could be a case, but also it could be that maybe premises of movies of some kid getting an old wizard to fuck up his spell because of saying oh wait this and that and wait this shows
it makes sense though. His whole life is pretty much a disaster because his identity is revealed, right? So obviously he'd want to.
Well, no, I don't disagree with that, but I disagree with the scene where he's sitting there oh wait, and make sure Aunt May doesn't forget, and make sure my best friend doesn't forget, and make sure Happy doesn't forget, and make sure my girlfriend doesn't forget. And Doctor Strange's oh, you fucked up my spell, you piece of fucking shit.
But the benefit of that is there are consequences.
Yeah.
Because in the end, everybody forgets.
Consequences, yeah.
Not only does everyone forget who Peter Parker is, everyone he also lost his aunt. She doesn't come back. He literally loses everything. And this was something that came up with Doctor Strange. My friend, you said it doesn't make sense because Doctor Strange remembered Spider-Man and I thought he cast a spell so no one would remember. And I was like, dude, everyone remembers Spider-Man. Nobody remembers Peter Parker. But I'm pretty sure he mentioned Peter Parker. Dude, superheroes don't just go around telling other people, like random people, your superhero secret identity. He didn't say Peter Parker's name. But
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he like said he was a teenager or something. Dude, this is exhausting to deal with people.
it is. It can be.
Like, he didn't violate this. They didn't violate the spell. It's not a canon issue. Like, people know Spider-Man. People don't know Peter Parker. That's just how it is.
Yeah. Still think the premise in that, like, I feel like there are other ways that spell could have gotten fucked up, which would have been more interesting.
I feel like there are other ways the spell could have got reversed, but
but here we are.
But I really love the movie.
Yeah. Well, you love Spider-Man. So
Yeah, I love
you love
Spider-Man.
bias.
Yeah.
Bias. But still, it's gonna be. We can talk about it on a later date.
Yeah.
But either way, Doctor Strange, it was good, not great. Like, well, I mean, okay, it was good. I don't want to say not great, but I don't want to be like in a negative way. But it was like good, not like fantastic. But hopefully, whatever comes next will be just good and a little bit better.
Doctor Strange will be the most impactful movie on what happens next. Like,
yes.
That's kind of just how it is. Like, even
next up is Guardians, right? That's what we got coming up next.
No.
I mean, Thor: Love and Thunder.
Thor.
Yeah.
And following Thor will be Black Panther 2.
Okay.
And then the Marvels. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 just finished filming. So they got some time to do,
And that's the last one, right?
That'll be the last Guardians, aside from the holiday special that comes out this year, I believe. But yeah. And then I'm predicting... Ooh, I don't know when it'll be. You'll get more announcements this year sometime, either at San Diego Comic-Con or D23. That's my prediction.
So let me pose this next question to you then. Who do you think is the next big thing? Who is the next big villain? Like
Kang.
Kang, you think?
Yeah. It's going to be Kang. If it's not, it'll be... So
are they going to come out... Actually, let me ask you this question. Do you think one day you'll see like a movie that says like, whatever the title is, The Secret War or something like that, or Secret Wars, like, Eternals, The Secret War, or Eternal Secret War, or something like that?
They might do something like that, because that's what they do with like big events in comics. They'll do like Secret Wars, and they'll have tie-ins to the event, and they'll have like Captain America Secret Wars and blah, blah, blah. I don't know if they'll do that for movies. Like, I don't know if it makes sense.
I know. I'm asking like if they're gonna make like one movie called like The Secret War or The Secret Wars or something like that. Is that what you think is really coming?
Yeah, they might call it. That would be a good question.
Do you think they would
because
call it
every
Secret Wars?
other major event they've called Avengers first.
Yes, that's the thing. Like, so what do you think it would be next, or do you think they would just call like Marvel's The Secret War or Secret Wars? Because I thought it was going to be Eternals. Like, I thought Eternals was supposed to be like the next name, like thing that they use, like the Eternals, The Secret War.
No, it won't be Eternals. If they do it, there's so many superhero teams.
Doctor Strange, Secret Wars. No.
If Doctor Strange 3 is Secret Wars, then yes.
Okay.
but we'll have to see. I think we'll get the next planning for Marvel, the next plan of movies, the next slate, if you will, this year. I think we'll get it at D23 or San Diego Comic-Con. At the end of this month is Star Wars Celebration, so there's a possibility of announcements being made there for Star Wars things.
On the 27th, baby.
Yeah, 27th is Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Ready spaghetti. Honestly, like, I don't know, looking at that one trailer, like, I think this may be like probably one of the best pieces of Star Wars content we've probably gotten since Rogue One. I think probably, and The Mandalorian, at least the first season. Second season of Mandalorian, I have some problems with, and like the book of Boba Mandalore, the book of Boba Mandalore, not exactly high on my list. Like, it was fun, but
I'm pretty sure we call that The Mandalorian season 2.5.
2.5. I don't know why they just didn't call it the Book of Tatooine. That would have fixed all the problems with the series right there.
Well, I mean,
but they didn't do that
because we leave Grogu with Well, I mean, we have the series is 6 episodes, and a third of it has no Boba Fett in it.
Yeah. Anyway, that's a different conversation.
Or 7 episodes.
I need to go make dinner because I'm really hungry.
Yeah. Sounds good.
So at the end of the day, 7.5, maybe an 8, like on a good day, depending on what kind of mood I'm in. It was good, not great. Hopefully I'm excited for what comes next though. A
Yep.
lot more excited than after when I watched No Way Home. So I guess
Yeah.
we'll have to see.
Alrighty. Well, thanks everybody for watching or listening, and much love and follow and stuff. Oh, we took a picture outside the movie theater. You
Yeah,
can
we
find
did
it at my Instagram,
on the gram.
KAJE_47.
47. Yep.
If you want
All
to,
right.
follow for memes and whatnot. Okay, bye.